Hi, babe.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Me too.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle,
And I'm Kobe.
and we're so excited to be here with you today, sharing all of our gardening secrets.
It's a secret. It's like your tomatoes. It's a secret.
It's a secret, the secret tomato. As many of you already know, growing can be an incredibly rewarding hobby, but it's not always easy, is it?
No.
No, we have setbacks to share with you today.
Mhm.
That's why in this video, we're going to give you a complete rundown on some of the best strains out there for us gardeners and how each of us approaches choosing strains. Plus, we'll show you how our own seedlings are turning out. And so now it's time for you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
It's great.
Yes.
So one of the things when we talk about the whole process of going from, I think I might try gardening, to actually plants in the ground and harvesting something, has to begin with some kind of basic questions. It's really easy to find yourself potentially held up by indecision over specific things you might have guesses about, but not necessarily feel confident in, or there's just so many options and choices available that you don't even know how to sort of pick from
Overwhelm.
any of the things and just get going. So we want to try to help with the process of choosing which cultivars to use as a way to unblock that and think about how this is really a journey. So the one choice you make right now doesn't have to be held up because you're going to get to make the same choice again in the future. And so each iteration, you're going to learn and like what you experience in a way that tells you what you want to do next.
For sure. Let's just start out with strains, you guys. Let's tell them all the strains we've grown. Are you ready?
Go for it.
All right, here we go. 24 karat, sour tangy, Ken's Granddaddy Purple,
We've got California Sour Diesel, Jack Herrera, Motor Breath, Blueberry Muffin,
Mimosa, Forbidden Fruit crossed with Watermelon Skittles. That was a winner.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Purple City Genetics, tip my hat, robust grower, really fragrant, and just very easy to grow as well. It was one of those plants that was hardy and handled its business. So if you like mammoth plants and you like something that's easy to grow, Forbidden Fruit crossed with Watermelon Skittles turned out to be amazing.
And if you like delicious flavors, and if you like something purple and beautiful with lots of myrcene and, very decent THC, that I think has worked really well in my sleepy time formula, also a great winner. You know what I mean? From my point of view.
Right on.
All right. Then that same season, we grew Romulan, and Willie G's Lebanese is the last one on our list.
And Willie G's Lebanese is one specific cultivar that happens to be CBD dominant. And we've got a lot of interesting things about CBD dominant strains that we've worked with in the past. But what's interesting for us, selfishly, is that because CBD has become so easily accessible since 2018,
Yeah.
we stopped really focusing on growing our own CBD because we could just get
Buy it.
some. And when you have so few plants that you can grow consistently from year to year, you want to focus on what really is most bang for the buck. So we end up growing THC dominant things in the garden and buying CBD because it's so accessible. If you don't know about getting CBD inexpensively and from high quality growers, can we put some links on the bottom for?
Yeah, Orange Creek Hemp is something that I support completely. You can read more about them on my website, cannacuriouscoaching.com, in the resources page. I do have a link to the resources page in every description that I'm putting out lately. As well as I like to recommend Dreamland Organics. Both of these are Oregon growers, shipped to your door, convenient, order online, get discounts from my website.
So there you go. It shifted our focus. In the past, we were really growing for a diversity of things in terms of like the cannabinoid profiles. And the way that the legalities are these days,
Yeah,
THC is the thing to grow for practical purposes, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were going to go to you, the grower, for all the logistics. We were going to talk with you about, choosing cultivars or strains for reasons that are pragmatic.
Right on. Yeah. So the pragmatic things, when I'm thinking about growing, start with how much space do you have, and have you set aside the amount of space that's needed to get this done? And so then, how many plants can you do in the space that you got?
How close to each other, how many total, people who are indoors have to think about this a lot But you also have to think about this as an outdoor grower too,
Yeah.
because the chance of them getting really large are greater and greater,
Pretty good.
honestly. And don't we want that?
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
I think really huge is fun for individual plants, and we only get a few, so we just have fun with it.
So just planning ahead. This is
But
like
being
a
ready for the
newbie
space.
mistake is not planning ahead.
Not enough space.
Not enough space.
Mm.
So space is the final frontier, number one.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. So space is a big deal.
Okay.
And then forward from space, I tend to think a lot about which plants use the photo period which way. So we talked a bit about this last time. You know, there are plants that you can start earlier in the season that will get larger because they start earlier in the season. Other plants, if you start them at the same time of year, they're right next to each other, same everything else, everything about the sun conditions and the weather and everything's the same. The other plant, because the day is not long enough yet, when you're starting in the spring, the days are still getting longer. They actually go into the flowering stage. These plants, they follow what the sun is doing. And so you've got the time when they're growing, they're getting larger, the vegetative growth stage. That's, you know, from seed sprouting and getting larger. That vegetative growth stage is something that the plant's using the length of the day as the cue. When the days are longer, it's growing, growing, growing. And then as the fall comes and as the days get shorter, there's a point past which the day is short enough that the plant goes, oh, days are getting shorter. It's time for me to start flowering. And so they kicked into the flowering stage. That flowering stage part, when the days are getting shorter, if you plant early and the days are still that length or shorter, then they're like, oh, it's flowering time for me. And they start doing the flowering things really, really early, and it's not useful for you. We actually had that experience specifically with the Romulan strain that we used. Romulan was sitting right next to, we had forbidden fruit, cross watermelon Skittles, going like gangbusters, and we're thinking, wow, that's great. And the Romulan's sitting over there looking like a little runt and not doing anything.
Not doing a thing.
And that was true through May into June. Get about mid-late June, and Romulan started to turn the corner. And by harvest time, by September, they were decent-sized plants. They got to be about 4 feet tall. They didn't get huge, but they produced a decent amount of bud. We liked what we got out of Romulan as far as the strain itself, the terpenes, the smell, everything that goes into having it, and then, of course, consuming it.
But it grew totally different from its neighbor.
Its pattern was very different. So you could really see how the cultivars differ in this regard.
How do you choose around that idea? You know what I mean? Are you thinking about?
I think the one cue that I look for now is, where is this particular cultivar well known for growing? So there are growers that are growing as far north as, you know, well into, like in the Western Hemisphere, as far north as well into Canada. If you know that something is popular and grows well in British Columbia, they probably need those longer days, right? And the farther north you get, the longer the longest day is. And so that means that they probably don't necessarily work as well for get down to, you know, California. You probably want to find strains that are already grown well in your region. That's one thing that I think would be a good tip. You're going to work with local growers. Then you're going to find that the things that you're getting are going to work well there because they already grow them locally. So in some ways, it's kind of like a self-selecting process as far as how you choose your stuff. But if you find that you're looking for seeds and casting about too farther away, we've even gone so far as to, you know, bring seeds in from Europe.
Oh yeah, ordering online from sources worldwide, which is legal, by the way, because they are under that 0.03% THC, the seed itself.
You know, your experience will tell you whether it works in your climate and what time of year is a good time to start a particular strain. So I've been thinking about, you know, time, space, and then how easy it is to grow, how vigorously it grows, and those kind of things. You can also think about how much of an experiment you want. I like the idea of seed banking and growing and then producing more seeds with some of my plants as opposed to purely only growing for the flower, in which case I like to get regular seeds. Some people would say that regular seeds also happen to be a little more robust in terms of being stronger plants when they grow. Mm-hmm. But regular seeds means statistically 50-50 boys and girls.
Yeah.
And
some people don't want any males at all.
Right. And for those people who don't already know, cannabis is dioecious. It's a gendered thing. So there are plants that produce pollen or are considered quote unquote male. And you've got the plants that produce the flower that people consume. And those are typically females. There are people who will sell you what they call feminized seeds, seeds that are already guaranteed to be female. And then there are some seeds that are called autoflower. This autoflower thing actually is like where the photoperiodicity thing we just talked about earlier about the length of the season doesn't matter to the plant. The plant's just like, I'm going to be growing for a certain amount of days, and then I'm going to kick over into flowering at that time, regardless of the length of
And
the
the whole
days.
situation is over in about 84 days, for in general for almost all autoflowers.
Yeah. So whichever time of day it is, whichever way it goes, that's the way that they work. So the feminized plants, the autoflower plants, if you want things to be a little easier, if you only care about bud, getting feminized seeds is a great way to skip over the thing about gender. And if you're not worried about the photoperiodicity, or if you're working indoors and you have grow lights, these are very often good places to use autoflowers.
There's choosing the right strain for your gardening skill. Maybe there's some strains that you are like, oh, that's exotic and exciting, but you read up that it's finicky or something, and you're like, I don't have those skills. This is my first time growing a plant since kindergarten. I put a bean plant in a wet paper towel and a Ziploc bag, and oh my God, I grew a plant. Like, if you need to get a little farther than that, and this is your first time, then yeah, don't buy those finicky seeds.
And so it's like, but not all of us want to fight that hard.
When you're talking about choosing cultivars from a terpene and consumption perspective from the blower here. Most people are thinking effects and flavor profiles and smells. That's a huge part of strain selection in cannabis. If you're choosing to grow for CBD, you could probably grow it all the time. It's a legal garden plant, I think. But if you're growing for THC, then you have to follow the legalities in your area. Is it legal to grow THC where you are? Is it not? How many plants can you have? What kind of licenses do you need to have or not have? Here in California, it's legal to grow a lot of places 6 plants, but you do have to look it up, indoor or outdoor. What stage can you have the plants at? People get questions about, if I have 6 seedlings and 6 mature plants, is that an issue? Do I have 12 plants? And this is something that education needs to help with. It's okay to have 6 seedlings and 6 mature plants that you're about to harvest because you're just in a cycle of growing. And if it's for a medicinal need, then you have to be consistent with it. But if you have no understanding about how plants grow, then you might be sitting there going like, oh my God, that's way too much THC for one person. They can't have 12 plants worth of THC. And suddenly we're having a no vote on something that's, from a gardening perspective, very obvious.
Simple logistics. Yeah.
Simple logistics. So growing by cannabinoid. If you want to get high, you need THC. If you want to be healthy, I suggest you grow as many cannabinoids as you can.
And that means the full variety
The
of
full variety
cannabinoids.
of
Yeah.
cannabinoids, THC, CBD, CBG plants. There are so many cool plants coming out. And if you have the ability to get seeds of those or clones of those, try it. It can be fun. All right. The other thing you can grow by is by taste, smell, terpene profiles, what this is called. Here in California, we should talk about this because we're growing some of their seeds. We met the guys at Green Shock, and they are some of the most award-winning cannabis growers in California at the California State Fair, which is so cool. And I got to touch their rad bear statues that they won and hold them at their booth at the Emerald Cup this year. It was so rad to meet those guys. And the way that the California State Fair is legitimizing the idea of categorizing cannabis by terpene profile with dominant and sub-terpenes in the profile. I'm a big fan of this lab out here called SC Labs. We know them fairly well. They talk at the cup all the time, and SC Labs is a staple here. And they've come out with all of this for a long time, that after testing like thousands of millions of strains of cannabis, they see the terpene profiles and they fall into these categories. So basically you've got terpenes are the chemical compounds that grow in the trichomes of the cannabis plant that are on the flowers and the sugar leaves that give it this taste and the smell and the aromatic experience and the taste experience when you're consuming it orally or inhaling it. You can also kind of smell it topically, but less. So, there's just the classic smell of cannabis. Some of the terpenes are very volatile and like a flower, because it's a flower. The smell of a fresh picked flower has a certain bouquet, and the aroma of that same flower dried is different because we've lost volatile terpenes. If you know anything about essential oils, this is all the same thing. Terpenes are the most common and voluminous chemicals in our plant world. So every time you go outside and smell anything that's a plant, which is like basically everything, hello, allergy sufferers, you know what I'm talking about. These terpenes and parts of the plants are everywhere. And a lot of people like to grow what is their favorite cannabis to consume, which they usually understand by its terpene profile and its cannabinoid content. So if you're a THC lover and you're growing like Tangy, you are a lover of limonene. You love those citrusy, delicious flavors. If you're a Granddaddy Purple fan, you love your myrcene, you love your tropical mangoes, you love all that. If you're growing something peppery, maybe like a sour diesel, something with gas, you're looking at like beta caryophyllene, humulene, and those are the categories that you're going to see in the California State Fair categorizations. I think there's like 7 or so. And the way that farmers here can enter their cannabis into our state fair to win blue ribbons and championships and golden bears is by the terpene profile. So there's an ocimene category, a limonene category, a humulene, pinene, terpinolene. These are the names of the terpenes. They have different smells, and that's how we categorize our cannabis now. And I hope it catches on everywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's smart.
And it's great because, one of the things that is fun to do, learning about the terpene profiles associated with the cannabis plant, is also to see where those same terpenes appear in other plants that we're also familiar with, other spices, other herbs, things like lavender. And the terpene associated with that is linalool. If you love that smell of lavender, you might want to look for a cannabis strain that happens to present linalool strongly as well.
Correct.
When you think about beta caryophyllene and you think about the gas kind of smell, you can also think about black pepper. Beta caryophyllene is a big
spicy black pepper, yeah.
A big component of that spice. So it's great to sort of like have a relationship with this plant among all the other
all the plants. It gets really relatable. You start playing these little games of like, oh, I can smell the notes. And it smells like these other things. And if you're into that kind of stuff like we are, and I know you are, then yeah, it's fun, right? So let's take this idea of the terpenes and the cannabinoids and like bring them to the fruition. So if you're the kind of person who loves a certain strain because of its taste and effect on you, why? You know what I mean? Let's go for the why here. We're talking about effects. So this is my new book from Tammy Sweet. It's called Growing Cannabis and Making Your Own Healing Remedies, A Beginner's Guide. Tammy Sweet is a wonderful teacher whose class for growing I'm in right now with a lot of my friends. And she has a great chart on page 8.
Right.
We're talking about choosing cultivars by effects. So as a cannabis health coach, this is something that I try to get across to people, that THC, CBD, the cannabinoids are the engine. They are the drug that is, moving something along. They're connecting with, your receptors and helping your body achieve balance, which is called homeostasis. But the terpenes, what are they doing? They are the steering wheel. They're driving the ship. So you've got THC with linalool, and we're looking for something kind of relaxing, anti-anxiety, and sedating. Linalool is the same thing as lavender. Lavender's, everybody knows this about lavender: soothing, relaxing, sedating. So if you're looking for sleep and you're looking for something that has linalool, some strains that Tammy recommends are Black Cherry Pie, Granddaddy Purple, Northern Lights. This is combining your effects that you want, understanding the cannabinoid and the terpene profile, and then taking that all the way into cultivar selection, right? Right. If you're looking for pain relief, you're going to be interested in terpenes like caryophyllene, limonene, myrcene, and, oh gosh, that's one I don't know, pinene. Pinene. Look at me, I need my glasses. Pinene. Anyway, what strains are we looking for there? Blackberry Kush, Blue Dream, Sour Diesel, always my top recommendation for pain. Any high CBD cultivar. I want you to read that in this light, right? Can you read that?
I'm hip. I'm not judging.
You're judging. Still funny. You're judging.
But it's still funny.
All right. If you're looking for anti-anxiety, some of the terpenes that you're probably looking for, like we said, linalool, myrcene, limonene, and caryophyllene again. And for strains, AC/DC, Blueberry Muffin, which we grew last year and we're enjoying a lot. Bubba Kush, I've purchased that so many times from so many hemp farmers. And Hawaiian Haze, another one of my favorites. I mean, delicious. 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 Okay. Energizing and focus, the sativa effect. I didn't really cover this, but like sativa, and I don't even want to talk about it. It makes my brain hurt. It makes my heart hurt. If you're looking for energy and focus, the terpenes that you're probably going to be enjoying are limonene, pinene, terpinolene, and caryophyllene again. Some of my favorite strains are in this category. This one is making my mouth water just to think of it. I know you know what it is.
Go ahead.
Jack Herrera. Jack Herrera. Jack Herrera. Oh, my favorite. Lifter, one of my favorite CBD strains to buy, almost always the highest CBD, best bang for your buck in terms of if you're trying to like get your best price for cannabinoids. Mimosa, which we grew last year, struggle plant. Queen of Hope, Sour Diesel, again, winning strain.
Yeah.
And Super Lemon Haze, delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some real specific, thank you, Tammy, strains that you could be interested in. You probably already know them. They're super popular. These effects are widely desired in cannabis use. So picking by pragmatic considerations, picking by cannabinoid, terpene content, and basically effect is what, we're presenting to you today as the grower and the blower.
Yeah. And, that last bit about how popular these strains are.
Yeah.
It's really useful to think about the fact that their popularity also comes from, in most cases, them being easy to grow. These are things that you can find lots and lots of places. Where's Tammy Sweet based? She's in the East Coast somewhere,
in the East Coast. She's out of rural New York.
Yeah. So
the Heartstone Center.
If you're hearing about them from someone on the East Coast, and here we are in California and can get the exact same strain, seeds are popular. They've been distributed widely and have done pretty well wherever they've gone. So those are great things. I'll give one little plug for a specific seed company called Humboldt Seed Company out here in California. They've provided seeds that have been pretty robust. Growing with them has been pretty easy. They have a wide variety of things. You can hit any of those terpene profiles you like through their catalog. And so take a look.
Absolutely. They're online. You can visit their website for sure. And you can visit them at the Emerald Cup. They have a huge booth, and we just appreciate them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very proud of Humboldt Seed. All right. We did it.
Covered it.
Oh, well, you know what? We didn't give our seed update.
Okay. Maybe that's just because a little bit of struggle has been going on with us lately.
Struggle plants.
We had our first set of seeds experience that thing called damping off, which you have a, seedling just barely getting going. And all of a sudden the stems just shrivel up and go away and the plant just doesn't make it. They look great. And then all of a sudden they started withering. And that can happen if there is something in the medium, in the soil that you started your seeds with, that is like an infection.
It's a pathogen.
It's some pathogens that can be there.
And how do we avoid this? Using sterile soil starter, seed starter soil.
Seed starter things that are clean. If you work with stuff that's straight out of your garden, if you go to your garden soil and then grab that garden soil and use it to start seed, there's more risk of finding those pathogens in there. I mean, obviously it's an ecosystem of stuff. And the goal with seedlings is to give them this, little isolated, safe bed to get started and get going. And so getting packaged potting soil is a great way to avoid that kind of thing happening. We use these little peat or little things,
kits, little pods, and they just put water and get some fresh ones every year and you'll be good.
Yeah, just get new ones. Don't keep them around for years and then have that be a factor for damping off your seeds.
Actually, they germinated beautiful, super strong, and then bam, damping off. It's classic. They just got a thin spot in the stem and poop, fell over, and now they're dead.
Nutrients and water are going into the leaves, and they just fell over.
Die.
Yeah. So luckily enough, that happened early enough that we started over, and we just got more seeds going now.
Yeah. However, for those of you who don't have maybe as abundant collection of seeds as maybe the Crawfords here, and maybe you paid $10 a seed and this is not okay, or more than that, because we've paid more than that. Those Jack Herrera seeds I mentioned, the most expensive seeds we've ever bought. The warning here to use the fresh, sterile soil if you have only old stuff available to you. Run boiling water through it and sterilize it again. Let it dry and cool down, and then you can go ahead and use it. Or you could bake it in your oven to sterilize it if that's all you have. But come on, just go and get something new.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is that as seedlings get started, they need moisture. Certainly, they need moisture to get started, but it's
Easy to drown them.
It's easy to overwater.
Yeah.
So err on the side of not overdoing it with the seedlings. The soil needs to be damp, but not wet.
hmm So we had 3 batches, basically. We had Oaxacan Gold. You bought all these seeds this year.
Yeah.
These were exciting.
So equilibrium seeds, we got one called Oaxacan Jaguar, and then 2 from the Green Shock team.
Yes. With their delicious flavors, award-winning
Chocolate
flavors.
orange and key lime. What was the other one called? Key lime cookies.
Cookies. Okay, and what do we have going now?
So we've got seeds of those 3, wedding cake, and a couple other things where it was like, well, if we're going to have issues with these seeds possibly damping off, I'm going to have more going. So we have more seeds going. We'll see how they do, and then we'll keep the ones we like, and then cull the rest or share them with our friends.
Yes. Yes, it's always good to have some extra to share with your friends who, are scared to attempt all this. Don't be scared. It's fun. We love it. And you will too. Hey, go Warriors.
Yeah. We're gonna hope. We're gonna hope. We're still in it right now.
We're in the playoffs. If you can't tell by what we're wearing, that's what we care about. And if you can't tell by what we're wearing, well, there's another thing that we care about. Rep Your State of Mind, where you can get your cannabis advocate gear if you are interested in normalizing, destigmatizing, and representing your state of mind. Visit repyourstateofmind.com to get cool cannabis lifestyle apparel and accessories from me, Michelle Crawford. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting cannabis advocacy and the normalization of gardening. My God. Signing off.
Thanks.